Hey everyone, Bandit here. Welcome to the Bandit Flight Simmer channel, and today we're in a rainy Nantucket Island just off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the eastern seaboard of the US. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Today I'll be doing a product review of a item I recently purchased called the Class Echo, which is a input device for controlling various aspects of your aircraft, like your autopilot, GPS, and switches, various things like that. So it's a little rainy here, so let's hop inside the cockpit where it's a little more quiet, and we can talk about the Class Echo and what it can do for you. So before we talk about the Class Echo, I'll just precursor by saying that this is by no means a paid review, and I'm just doing this for my fellow flight simmers out there to show them what this product is about and what can it do for you, and maybe this could be a good option for other people using Flight Sim 2020. So without further ado, let's talk about what the Class Echo is. And I'll just bring up their website here, and it's from a company called Shapeprint Simulations. And what you're purchasing is the start of the items you're going to need to assemble the Class Echo. So basically, when you purchase the Class Echo from this company, all you're purchasing is the enclosure, the wiring, and the control knob. And the other items, the touchscreen and the main board, you have to purchase separately, and I purchased those on Amazon. And there's other places you can purchase them, obviously. And then they include assembly instructions and how to upload the firmware to the device and how to connect via the software. So essentially it's a little home project that you can do to build this device. And when it was all said and done, the cost for me came in just under $180 US, including all the items I purchased and the software to interface with the sim. And so I chose this device over other options because I was looking for something that I wanted a single input device. I wanted something that didn't take up a lot of desktop space, and this seemed to fit the bill when I looked at other options. So and I wanted a better way to interface with the simulator, so I wasn't always having to control everything with the mouse and scroll wheel and my keyboard. So right now with this, I can pretty much do everything that I want with the aircraft using just the Class Echo and my joystick and throttle and buttons mapped on my joystick and throttle. I'll just show you another quick little picture here. So it's not a very big device, and you can see it here on a desktop picture. It's just a small little box here, and it's got the touchscreen, the control knob on the right, and you can just have it sitting on your desktop. It's better if you can have it somehow fixed to your desktop so it doesn't move around because you're pushing on the screen. And you can also mount it. It's got holes lined up to mount it on top of various yokes, like here it's mounted on the Honeywell yoke. So that's another option you can do. And yeah, so that's what the Class Echo device is. And the way you interface with the sim is you use this software called Spad.next. And this is software used to interface with various input devices for simulation. Here you can see in this picture that they have they map to these devices like autopilot control panels, the radio panels, the switch panels, various joysticks, throttles. So this is what you use to interface with the Class Echo. And I'll talk about my other option was looking at buying these devices separately and get the same user experience. And this would have cost about $500 to $600 for 3 of these control panels here, and it obviously takes up a lot more desktop space. And so I decided to go with the Class Echo, and so far it's been working out pretty good. So without further ado, let's get the airplane going, and I'll show you what the Class Echo can do. For today's flight, we are going to do a short hop from Nantucket Island up to Martha's Vineyard, and basically we're just going to take off out of Nantucket, go right into the ILS to Martha's Vineyard. So a quick short little trip just to show you what we can do with the Class Echo. And today it's IFR, it's rainy and low visibility, so we'll have to shoot the ILS approach in Nantucket. For those of you interested in flying around this area, there's lots of great scenery, freeware scenery. I downloaded freeware scenery for both Nantucket Airport and Martha's Vineyard Airport, and I'll put a link in the description, but I just got them from flightsim.to, and it really improves the airports for this area of the world. So I've been doing a little bit of flying around here. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to break away here. I'm going to start the aircraft. I'm going to move it out to hold shore of the runway, all ready to go, except for loading up the flight plan and just to save a little bit of time before we get going here. Okay, so I'll see you in a couple minutes. Okay, so we're holding short of runway 24 here, and before we get going, I'm going to go over all the input options on the Class Echo and how we can use it for this short flight here. And we'll also load a flight plan before we get going here. So you'll notice that I'm not using the GTN 750 mod. That's because this is designed to interface with the stock G1000. And so I'll also say that this device is more geared towards using with general aviation aircraft. It is used to interface with the various Garmin systems here in the GA aircraft, like the G1000, the GSN 530, and the GSN 430. And so basically it can interface with the jet aircraft in the sim and the turboprop aircraft the sim, but you cannot control any GPS functionality with those aircraft. You can only do it with the GA aircraft, like in this case the Diamond, and the Cessnas and the Beechcraft aircraft. So anyway, let's go over the different screens here. So when you link up the device, this is the screen you're going to see. It's the flight info screen, and you have a list of screens that you can access on the right hand side here. And on the flight info screen, you just have your call letters and what aircraft you're connected with, and the rest is just general information. So you have like flap trim settings, what annunciators are active right now, general heading, airspeed information, altitude, winds, some GPS information when we have a flight plan loaded up, and just some time. So this is mostly just an info screen. You do have some settings here. You can control the brightness, shows your frame rate, in this case 53 frames per second, and you have two selections here. One is to always append nav comm frequency with 1, and I just have that turned off. And you can also set your altitude encoder to go up by 100 or 1,000 feet increments. So I just have it at 100. So that's the first screen you're going to see. Next, you have the autopilot screen. And on this screen, you control various aspects of your autopilot. So you have your heading, approach, altitude, nav, vertical speed, speed, flight level change modes. You can engage your autopilot, flight director, yaw damper. These here aren't active for the GA aircraft, so you can't use those. And here you can change your altimeter. So, for example, I can change my altimeter. I'll just zoom in on my PFD here so we can see what effects it has. So when I select something here, like the altimeter, it highlights blue, and that means that's active for changing on the screen. So I'll go back to 2994 is the current altimeter. If I want to change my altitude, so let's say we're going to be cleared runway heading to 2,000, so I'll put in 2,000 feet, I'll select that, and then just dial up 2,000, and you see it change on our PFD there. And let's say we want to put in our heading for the takeoff, so the heading is going to be 241, so I select the heading, and I'll just heading select around to 241. So that is ready to go. And you can input your course here, and select all the various autopilot functions. So that's the basic autopilot page. Next is going to be the NavCom page, and this is where you can set up things like your transponder. So if I select transponder, I can put in, say, a code 1234 and hit enter, and then you see our code shows up, and I can also turn it on. So you can control your transponder there, and then down the left hand side you have your COM1, COM2, NAV1, NAV2, and this is selecting what you hear with your audio, and this selects your nav source, which is NAV1, NAV2, or FMS. So we're going to want FMS, so I select FMS, and now the CDI is going to switch to FMS tracking mode. Com frequency, if I want to change a com frequency, I can just put in like 1, 2, 6, 7 and hit transfer, and then you'll see now that's become our active frequency up here. So that is your NavCom page, and you can do the same thing for the nav. So might as well, just for reference here, put in the Nantucket VOR, which is 16.2, so we can put that in nav2. Well, that's already in nav2, so 116.2 is in there. And next we'll show you how to display nav2 on the PFD screen. So that is pretty much this page right here. Next is a controls page, and on this page we can control some aspects of this aircraft, but not very much with this DA62. You control your parking brake, you can control your landing gear, and I have that mapped to my joystick anyway, so I'm not going to use that. So basically on this page all I really can control is my pitot heat. So if I hit the pitot heat button, it'll turn on the pitot heat. The other things like airframe, windshield, propeller, and engine de-ice, it's not mapped to this aircraft because it uses a different kind of system. It uses a fluid system. So it does work though, like on the Baron it works, and on the Cessnas it works, which uses an electrical system. There's no bleeds on this aircraft, so and there's no APU, so those don't function on here. But they do function for various other aircraft in the simulator. Next is the GPS page, and this is where you interface with the various GA aircraft GPS page systems. In this case we're using the G1000, but you can also select the G530 and get the interface screen for that, or the G430. And with this here we have the ability to interface with the MFD or the PFD, and so in this case we're selected with the PFD, and you have various controls up here. So here you have some NavCom controls, so you don't have to go back to your NavCom, you can just do it from this page. So if you hit the COM button up here, you're controlling it with a rotary dial, and you can see my COM frequency is changing, and then I can just transfer it over with this transfer button right here. Same thing I can do with the nav, and that's just for nav1 and COM1. So just quick access to that, so you don't have to flip back to the other page there. You have your various GPS control panels here, like switches, which are the same as the ones here. And so if you want to open up the flight plan page, you just hit flight plan, and then you have that page, and then you can close it. Along the bottom you have the 12 switches, or 12 buttons associated with the menu select switches on the bottom of the Garmin 1000. So if I hit number 12, it's the alerts page will come up, and there you go. So if I want to get nav2 displayed on a needle here, so I'll go to PFD, so that's button 4, and let's put it on bearing 2, so that would be button 7, and so I keep selecting it until we get to nav2, and there we go. nav2 ACK, which is the Nantucket VOR, is now displayed on needle 2. And I'll just hit the back to get out of that, so button 11, and there you go. So that controls your GPS interface, and then you can do the same thing with the MFD. So now I select MFD, and same thing, I can control the COM. You have your flight plan page here, and another thing you control is the range, so I can zoom in and zoom out by selecting the range, and then the buttons are the same along the bottom. So that's how you interface with this here. So let's load a quick flight plan just to show you how I would do that on here. So if I go to the flight plan page, and all we're going to do is load the 2 airports that we're flying from. So go to the flight plan page, and normally you would need the cursor and how you get the cursor on the aircraft is you would press the button for the control knob at the bottom here. And this button is just one, this control button is just one button, and you can push it in, and that's how you simulate the inner knob. So it's just one knob here, so if I just rotate something, it just simulates the outer knob. And so if I go to the range here, it simulates the outer knob. If I want to control the inner knob, then I have to push and rotate the button to control the inner knob. So, and then they have a cursor switch here that allows you to activate the cursor. So let's enter the flight plan and see how it all works here. So if I go cursor, that brings up the cursor. And now I control the outer knob just by rotating the outer knob till I get the first letter for the flight plan, which is K, and we're going to be looking for KACK. So to get to the next one, I would use the inner knob on the Garmin 1000. So to do that, I push and then I rotate, and that controls like the inner knob. And then now I use the outer knob. I just rotate till I get to A, and then I push and rotate till I get to C, and then I push and rotate till I get to K. And there you go, Nantucket. And I just hit enter, and then that's our first departure waypoint. So now I'm putting in the next waypoint, which is going to be KMVY, which is Martha's Vineyard. So just use the outer knob, K, push and rotate, and go back to look for M, and V, and Y. There we go, Martha's Vineyard, and enter. So it's as easy as that, and you can keep entering as many waypoints as you want, and when you're done the flight plan, you just close the flight plan page. And there's our flight plan. So that's how you use the control knob, and you just hit the cursor button if you need to get a cursor active. So next thing, might as well on the ground here before we take off, might as well load in the approach because it's going to happen pretty quick. So if I go to the procedure page, and I want to select approach, so it's already flashing there, so I just go enter, and we're going to do the ILS-24, but if I want to select another approach, I just rotate the knob and select ILS-24, and I go enter, and I need to get the cursor back, so I hit cursor, and then I push and rotate to get to the next item, which is we want the ACK transition, and that's fine. So I push and rotate till I get to the load or activate, and I might as well activate it because we're going to go right into the approach. So I just hit enter, and it should load everything up. And so let's go to our range and just zoom out here, and we can see there's the approach. So I'll load it up. So that is how we use the GPS page. So I'll go back to autopilot here. And so let's get the final checks done here. We'll take off and we'll get right into doing the flight and using the Class Echo. Now the goal for this is from now on in, I'm not going to use anything but my throttle, joystick, and the Class Echo, and any buttons that happen to be mapped to my joystick. So I have certain views mapped to my joystick, my throttle, my gear, my flaps, and then everything else I'll be able to do with the Class Echo. So the goal is not to use my mouse and keyboard for anything to do with flying the airplane. So without further ado, let's get our checks done and take off and get on our way to Martha's Vineyard. Okay, so let's do a pre-takeoff check and get the aircraft all set up here. So we'll just look around. We got our flaps are at takeoff, and pitot heat is on. We need to get our fuel pumps on. I can do that on the Class Echo here. So pump 1 and pump 2. Those are on. We have our altimeter 2994 set. We'll get our strobe light on and our landing light on. And we have our altitude 2000. Runway heading is set. And I think we are all ready to go. So let's say we were cleared takeoff to climb to 2,000 feet runway heading and contact Boston departure in the air on a frequency of 12875. Okay, so release the parking brake. We'll taxi out, have a quick look. Left. Oh, there's aircraft on final there. Might as well wait till, I think he's a little big for landing here. Okay, now let's head out. I have the live traffic on here, so we will see traffic every once in a while. I don't think you'd see an A330 landing in Nantucket here in real life, but there you go. Hopefully he's going to be clear of the runway. Oh, maybe he went around. I don't see him anywhere. Okay, so let's go full power and take off. And temperatures and pressures are good. Airspeed's alive. $80 knots. We'll rotate. Positive rate. Gears up. Speed's good. Flaps up. And got the airplane trimmed up a little bit here, so I'll just go through 500 feet and I'll just get the autopilot on. So autopilot master, flight director. We'll go flight level change. We'll climb at 100 knots. And we're in roll mode. I'll select heading select. And I'll just bring the power back to our climb power. Okay, so we'll do a post takeoff check. So gear is up, flaps are up. We can shut our fuel pumps off. And I'll shut our landing light off. And yeah, pumps are off and temperatures and pressures are good. We're just going to level off at 2,000 and we'll contact Boston Center. So if I go to the comm, 12875, so 12875, transfer. And at this point I would contact Boston Center, leveling 2,000 out of Nantucket, and say he just comes back, Roger, cleared to climb to 4,000 feet and right turn, climb on course to the initial fix for the ILS 24. So I go to the autopilot page. I'll select 4,000 feet. Go back to flight level change. Dial back my 100 knots. And we'll continue our climb. And I'll just select my heading. And we will just put on an intercept for that. So I'll just go north for now. So as you see here, whenever I select something, it highlights blue, and then you saw the blue disappear. That means now the heading is not active for the control knob. And if I select it again, it goes blue, and I can change the heading, so I can put it to 010. And so there we go. So I'll keep that on the intercept heading. Climb it up to 4,000 feet. And we're just leveling off, so I'm going to set a cruise power of about 80% should be fine. And we're still on the heading, going to intercept. If I want to go now to the PFD and I want to zoom in on this map, so I would just go to the GPS page, make sure I'm on MFD, select range, and there we go. Get a better idea of how close we are to that track there. So we're cleared on course to intercept the radial to choppy. So if I want to make my nav active, so I go back to the autopilot and I'll just hit nav active. So if I go to my PFD screen, you see at the top here now it's actively tracking the GPS. So we should turn onto this course and maintain it all the way to our next fix there. So that looks pretty good. Altitude's captured at 4,000 feet. We're just accelerating nicely. And so now I think we can start looking at getting set up for the approach, because we only have 17 miles to go. So I'll just show you quickly here the approach, what we're going to be doing. So we're coming in from the Nantucket VOR to Choppy to do the ILS 24. And so we're going to need to put a frequency of 1087. The course is going to be 236. We're going to cross the FAF at 1500 feet down to minimums of 263, and the field elevation is 263. And in the event of a misapproach, it's not programmed in the in this aircraft for the G1000. So I'm just going to request runway heading to 2,500 feet is the altitude here. So that's what we'll plan for the misapproach. So that's the basics for the approach that we're going to be doing, and so we can get that set up now with our Class Echo device. So you see we've turned and intercepted our track, and hey, we just got up above the cloud here, so hey, nice. I have a little hat switch on my throttle which allows me to move the view around like that, so that's nice and handy. Okay, so let's set up for the approach. So the first thing we need to do is I'm going to put in the frequency that we need for the approach. First thing I'll do is I'll swap this comm out so that we don't have to listen to the center there. And so now I want to put in the frequency of 1087 for nav1. So 1087, transfer that over. And I'll go to my PFD page here, just to see that is now transferred over as an active in nav1, so that's good. And I need to set my course. So my course is going to be 236, so I'll set course 1 here of 236, so that's ready to go. So that's good. And I'm going to center my heading bug while I'm here. Just always good to have it on center if you need to transfer over to heading anytime. And so that's set up, so I think we have everything set for now. And so now we're just going to wait for our clearance for the approach. So we're only 10 miles to go till we get to the fix there. And actually, I'm just going to show you. If I go to the GPS page here, range, yeah, it puts in this weird user fix for some reason before Choppy. I don't know why it puts that in there, but anyway, so we're not that far back from Choppy, but yeah, I'm not sure why it puts that user fix in there, but anyway, it does, so it's not a big deal. It's pretty much in line where we're going. So I go back to the autopilot here. So let's say we have been cleared for the approach by a Boston Center, and so I go back to the PFD here, and so we're clear for the approach. So coming in on this track, it says we can descend to 1,700 feet. And so if I put that in, 1,700 feet, see highlights blue, and I'll descend using vertical speed. So I'll activate vertical speed, and I'll select, and I'll put 700 feet per minute down. I'll just reduce my power a little bit. I'll set about 60, and there we go. So we're on our descent, and then once we turn inbound, when we're clear for the approach, I'll switch over to the nav source 1, and then we'll arm the approach for the ILS. Another thing we can do here now is put in our minimums, and our minimums are 263. So if I go to the PFD page here, and if I go to select GPS and go to PFD to control the PFD, and it's under timer references, which is key 10 here, and I need to get down to minimum, so I need to activate a cursor. So I hit cursor, and then I just push and rotate the knob to select through the different items till I get to minimums, and now I can just rotate the knob to get barrel, and then I push and rotate, and then I just rotate till I get 260, and I can only set by 10, so I'll set 260 as our minimums. And then I can just close that out, and then we have our minimum set for the approach. So that's all set. So we're just coming up to choppy here momentarily, and we've got about 1,000 feet to go. Lots of time. We don't have to be down till BPay there, which is the FAF, so looking pretty good. So far, have you seen, I've been able to do everything just using the joystick, throttle, and the Class Echo, and we should be able to keep that up till we get right to the gate and shut down the aircraft. I think the last page I didn't show you here was a system page, and here you can control the boost pumps, the igniters. If I hit those, I'll shut the engines off. You got starter switches, and you got fuel tank switches. These don't work on the Diamond because it just has those levers. So, but like on the Cessna, if you have a rotary knob, left, right, and both, it would control that. So that was the bottom system page. So we'll go back to the autopilot. So I'm just coming in for the approach here momentarily. I'm going to put my landing light on. And then after we make the turn from choppy, I'll switch over to nav source 1, and then we'll arm the approach for the ILS. Oh, other aircraft over there. Okay, should be making the turn here momentarily. There we go. And the advertised weather was 2 miles and 300-foot ceiling, so we should just make it in on this ILS approach. Looks like we may have a plane ahead of us on the approach there. No, I think it's, you can see, if I go into the MFD screen here, yeah, that's the traffic I think we're looking at, so he's just flying by there. Oh no, we do have a guy ahead of us on the approach here. Okay, so I'll go back to the main screen. So now if I want to, so I go to NavCom and I'll select Nav1 as my primary nav source. And we have the, see here on Nav1 we have IMVY as tuned and identified. And so now we're tracking the loc. So if I go back to the autopilot and I arm the approach, And then you see now glide slope is armed, so now we are looking pretty good for the approach here. So we're at 1,700 feet and just waiting for the glide path to come in. And we'll start down the ILS. And we're right on the tail of that guy just ahead of us there. So bring the power back a little bit just to slow down. Just update the altimeter. 993. Lots of traffic around here today. So as we intercept the glide path, you can see the glide path is just starting to become active now. So as we intercept the glide path, I'll get my gear and approach flap. So I'll get the gear now. And just as we intercept the glide path, I will select approach flap. And then I'll set the power for about 100 knots, indicate it. So approach flap is active, and I'll just set my power back. Oh, we're right on the tail of that guy. Okay, let the speed come back here a little bit. So let's get configured for the approach here. So I turn on my pumps. For the glide slope is captured, so I'll set our missed approach altitude 2,500, and we need to fly runway heading. So that is 236. So I'll set that. So there's our missed approach setup if we need it. And that looks good. We got our landing light on. So gears down, flaps are at approach. Speed's going back to 100 knots. And we just have land flap to go. Coming through 1,000 feet, a little bit below the glide path. And speed's coming back nicely, so we just have land flap to go. So let's just say we've been cleared to land. So now we're just going to look out for our approach lights. The autopilot is maintaining slightly low on the glide path. I'll just disconnect the autopilot here and just hand fly it a little bit. I just want to make sure we don't go too low. Oh, look at that, more traffic. Okay, there comes the glide path coming in. There's the approach lights ahead of us. So we're back on the glide path. Yeah, I don't know why the GPS was maintaining low on the glide path there, but anyway. Just hand fly it and fix that ourselves. Now we're getting a little bit high. A little bit bumpy down here. So there's minimums, and we have the runway in sight, so I'll select land flap. Let the speed bleed off. Looks like the traffic ahead of us went around. And the flare, touchdown. And we'll just cross this runway here and exit at the first taxiway. It's a busy little airport. So I'll exit to the left here. Another twin ahead of us here. Hopefully he moves out of our way, but I'll just stop behind him for now. Set our parking brake. So I'll shut our landing light off, shut our strobe light off, put the flaps up, come down and shut off our boost pumps, and get our post landing. So flaps are up, lights are set, pumps are off, and we can shut off our pitot heat as well. So I'll just go to the controls page and select pitot heat off, and go back to the autopilot. We can shut off our flight director. So, and if I want to get rid of that caution, I can just go to the GPS page. I'm on PFD, and then there we go. So I don't think Buddy here ahead of us is going to move, so I'll just taxi right through him here. So I'll release the parking brake. And there he goes. I'll just park straight ahead here. And I'll bring it to a stop here. Set the parking brake, and we can shut off the engines here. So just shut off igniter 1, igniter 2. And you can see the props come to a stop, and welcome to Martha's Vineyard. So that was a nice quick trip. I think we were able to successfully accomplish our goal there of not using the mouse and keyboard to control anything on the aircraft. We were able to do everything using the Class Echo and the joystick and throttle. So it definitely improves the overall user interface with the aircraft for sure. We all know how frustrating it can be using your mouse and keyboard to control these knobs and switches and stuff like that, especially when it's turbulent. You hit the wrong switch, or you're rotating the knob here and then you get off the knob and then you end up doing this. So I definitely enjoy using the Class Echo for controlling those aspects of the airplane. Definitely improves the overall user experience, I think. So in summary, this is a pretty good device. It wasn't cheap. It was, like I said, it was about $180 US all in when it was all said and done. But I think it was a lot cheaper option than going another route, which is having to buy individual control panels. It's takes up very little space on my desktop, and it's easy to use. It was a fun little project to try to put it together. The panels setups aren't perfect. I'd like to see maybe other options on some of the panels, maybe some options to control some light switches, maybe other switches in other aircraft. I don't know what the limitations are of the user interface with the sim in terms of setting up these panels, but I think it's overall a pretty good device. It has its limited functionality with the jets, though, and with the turboprop aircraft. Like I said, you can't do really any GPS functions with those aircraft. You can only control some of the comm and some of the autopilot functions. And it has some weird quirks with some of those aircraft too, using the autopilot, for example. When you select flight level change with the jet aircraft, it always seems to default at 0 speed, and then you have to rotate it up real quick. So it does have some limited functionality with those aircraft, but if you're a GA flyer, I think it really improves the overall user interface. So in summary, I would give it probably a 4 out of 5 for the product. I've had a lot of fun using it so far. I think it really improves the overall user interface. Hopefully as the product develops, they can improve some of the functionality with it and make it even better in the future. So if you're interested in this product, I hope this helped you out, helped you show you a little more how it's used and what functionality it has, and maybe it's something you'd be interested in using in the future. So anyway, that sums it up for the review of this product. I hope you enjoyed today's flight, and if you did enjoy it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you'd like to see other videos that I do, including my series of flying around the world in the Diamond DA62, make sure you hit subscribe and sign up for notifications, and you'll see those videos as well. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed today's flight, and we'll see you next time. Bandit out.